Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All good Sri Prabhupada. Yeah, we can get started now, Mate.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Thank you, dear devotees, for joining us. And today we'll have the summary of Canto 2. And this is chapter 8 by His Grace Sundarananda Prabhu. So you all heard chapter 7 from Prabhuji last week. And today is chapter 8. And we're very, very fortunate to have his association today. And he'll be covering from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, chapter 8. Prabhuji, please take over the call.
Thank you, Mate. Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All good Sri Prabhupada. I'll offer brief prayers and we can get started. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Namam Vishubhadaya Krishna Pestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणी जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदम हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Okay, it's a very nice chapter. Of course, Srimad Bhagavatam is always wonderful. So we are in the 8th chapter of the second canto. So we discussed briefly the context of the second canto itself last session and a little bit more in detail about the previous chapters. I'll just skim through this time. Basically, this is from the Swami Bhagavan Keshav Swami Maharaj book I described last time, how he gave the summary of the Srimad Bhagavatam in a simple way for us to get a bird's eye view. So he's describing the second canto entirely with this acronym CUT. C stands for connection, U stands for understanding the mystery of creation, T stands for total theology. So the way he divided his first 3 chapters, Sukadeva Goswami is answering Parishad Maharaj's question that connection with the reality, connection with the absolute truth, connection with God is the real thing we need to pursue. And that can be pursued by different methods, like some pursue with demigod, by worshipping demigods, some pursue by worshipping universal form, especially the unattached yogis we discussed. And then the attached yogis worship universal form. And then unattached or totally detached yogis, they worship the super soul in the heart of the heart. And then, but ultimately, the worship of the Bhagavan feature of the Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the best. How is best? It described with so many adjectives we heard. How it is very, very easy, rather simple, and also it is guaranteed return, and any progress we made is not lost, and we can start from anywhere. And there's no qualification, material qualification required, unlike other paths. Like that, is described so many qualifications to describe how we need to aspire for real connection with the Lord. That is how he started. Remember the overall context of the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, we know that Parishad Maharaj had only 7 days to live. That means his goal was to be absorbed in Krishna. That was his goal. So with that overall theme, we can keep in mind always. With that understanding, Sukadeva Goswami is clearly telling him that worship of absolute truth is best. That's what I recommend, even though others might think different things like that. He established that in the first 3 chapters. So now, next 4 chapters, he described the universal creation. So again, we discussed why creation happens is primarily in response to conditioned living souls. All of us, our demand that we want to enjoy separately from Krishna is giving an opportunity for us to play in the sandbox of material world and then also get rectified and go back to him. That also is giving opportunity. And then we heard about the time scale, how is different across different places within the universe, and then how material world is created by the energies of the Lord, is not separate from the Lord. And then what is the benefit of knowing all this creation and all these complexities is that we understand the greatness of the Supreme Lord. And then we understand the minuteness and insignificance of us, our small life and our small being compared to all the other great personalities in the world, including Supreme Lord Krishna himself in relation to Krishna. And then we also develop overall confidence or faith in scriptures, how scriptures have an explanation about the whole creation. It's not like a mystery. Even though we may not understand all the intricate details, we can still understand that scriptures have the explanation for it, and we can understand some of the detail to our intelligence, whatever it allows. And when we have understand Krishna's greatness and our minuteness or our insignificance as a small part and parcel of Krishna, a servant of Krishna, and then have faith in scriptures, this is all the recipe for performing greater bhakti or greater absorption in Krishna, or developing detachment for Krishna, detachment for material world, so that we can develop attachment to Krishna. So actually this CUT acronym is also inspired by that theme of overall this canto, which is absorption in Krishna and developing detachment for the material world. One of the ways we can develop detachment in the material world is when we hear the cycle of creation, maintenance, and annihilation. Creation, maintenance, and annihilation. So even though for us it appears for a long time we're going to stay here, it's clear that it's all temporary creation right now. When we understand that temporary, insignificant nature of the material nature and material world, then we can develop detachment. Number one. Number two, when we engage our mind and intelligence with absorption of Krishna, then also that leads to detachment. So those are the significance of describing the universal creation. So now, at the end of the 7th chapter, Brahma, while explained to Narada Muni, he explained the Purusha avatars like Karnadasya Vishnu, Garbhodasya Vishnu, and Shirodasya Vishnu. How Karnadasya Vishnu gives up lots of universes from his sweat pores of his body, and then as the Garbhodasya Vishnu, he enters within each universe, and then Brahma comes out of his navel like that. And then as Shirodasya Vishnu, he goes into each of the atoms and each of the living entities to support them, to sustain them, to maintain them like that. So after describing that, Brahma says, I'm going to describe you Leela Avataras. That's what is described in 7th chapter of this canto. That's what we discussed last time. Now, the next section of this canto, this is short canto, only 10 chapters in this canto. The last 3 chapters of this canto are focused on giving the knowledge of the total theology of entire Vaishnavism in a concise way. So here, the way the Keshav Maharaj put it is, which is also Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was describing in Banaras, he was describing whole Vedic knowledge as in simple way, in 3 categories he described. One is Sambandha Gnanam, that means knowledge of our relationship with Krishna and along with material world, our relationship with material world and Krishna's relationship with material world, Sambandha Gnana. And that's the principles we learned. And then once we learn that principle, understand that I am servant of Krishna and this material world is meant for me to utilize to serve Krishna. When we understand that Sambandha Gnana, then we apply that knowledge in practice on our everyday life, whether we're taking care of family, whether we're taking care of work, whether we're taking care of serving in a society, anything. We put that into knowledge into practice in our relationship with Krishna. That is called Abhideya Gnana, that knowledge. And then next one is Prayojana Gnana, means when we put that in practice, the principles of devotion service, what is the perfection state? Perfection state is the achievement of Krishna Prema, like that. So that's the Prayojana Gnana, like that. So this is all described in the 4 Chatusloki verses or 4 slokas that are coming up in the next chapter, 9th chapter. So in the 8th chapter, Parikshit Maharaj asks more questions to Sukadeva Goswami and inspires him. I want to hear more. He expresses eagerness. I want to hear more, like that. And he expresses confidence on the speaker also, Sukadeva Goswami. Then in the 9th chapter, he explains 4 slokas that Supreme Lord himself gave it to Lord Brahma in a concise form, entire Bhagavatam in 4 slokas. And then that is expanded into the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam that are described in 10th chapter. So then Brahma asks Narada Muni to expand further the Srimad Bhagavatam and share it with Vyasadeva, and Vyasadeva gave us the Bhagavatam that we have now, like that. That's the overall essence of this. Of course, this whole chat will be going into more detail in the next session with the 9th and 10th chapters. But I just wanted to give you overall preview of where this is going. Basically, this chapter, 8th chapter, Parikshit Maharaj is asking questions that leads to total theology of Vaishnavism. But there are wonderful themes coming up in this chapter also. We'll go through that. So now, this is a quick overview of the 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam in the second canto. So basically, Parikshit Maharaj is inspiring Sukadeva Goswami to speak more Harikatha. So we'll go into more details. So he's inspiring, that means he's glorifying Harikatha. He wants to hear more and more Harikatha, like that he expresses his eagerness. Then he asks specific questions. Parikshit Maharaj asks a whole bunch of questions so that Sukadeva Goswami keeps on speaking Krishna Katha like that. Then in the next set of verses, we'll see Parikshit Maharaj further inspires Sukadeva Goswami to speak, expressing his confidence in Sukadeva Goswami as a speaker, that you came in the parampara and you are the right person for me to hear from. And I'm eager to hear from you, like that. And then finally, Sukadeva Goswami is very happy to hear the questions and happy to see the eagerness of the disciple, Parikshit Maharaj. And he wants to start describing further. That's where this chapter concludes. Even though this chapter looks like more, essentially, if you summarize this chapter as two parts. One is bunch of questions from Parikshit Maharaj to his spiritual master Sukadeva Goswami. That is one overall category. And another thing is Parikshit Maharaj's eagerness, inspiration, and inquisitiveness to learn more and more, hear more and more Krishna Katha, and being absorbed in Krishna, like that. Those are two main categories you can see. Of course, you can also see other themes that come out, and I'm eager to hear what you catch by the end of the session from this chapter. Quick overview. What are the things you caught as themes, strong themes that are coming out of this chapter, like that. So, going to the first section now, where Parikshit Maharaj is inspiring Sukadeva Goswami to speak more Harikatha. Okay? Remember what happened in the previous chapter was Brahma described to Narada Muni to preach more. So, naturally, Parikshit Maharaj starts with that inquiry. Oh, can you please tell me, how did Narada Muni preach? Whom did he preach? How did he explain about the qualities of the transcendental Lord? Like that he asked in the first verse. Then he says, Parikshit Maharaj himself says that how these narrations are auspicious for the entire world. That means living beings in all the creation is auspicious, not just for human beings, even animals, anybody who can hear Srimad Bhagavatam narration, it is very auspicious for everybody, is saying like that. Whereas the demigods, human beings, doesn't matter, like that. So that's how is in the purport. So Prabhupada writes here, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam with devotion and attention from the right source. So from the right source representing the Lord by disciple succession. What does this mean? Prabhupada is saying Srimad Bhagavatam hearing is very auspicious, but we need to follow some things. One is we should hear only from disciple succession. That means most of you already know that from Supreme Lord, there are 4 main disciple successions are paramparas come. From Lakshmi Devi Sri Sampradaya, from Lord Brahma is Brahma Sampradaya, where we all practice in devotees in iskcon are inside that branch. And then from Lord Shiva is Rudra Sampradaya, and from 4 Kumaras are Kumara Sampradaya. From these several branches come out. iskcon is one of the branches, like that. So basically 4 main sampradayas are there. So we should hear from representative in these paramparas, not from a professional man who is trying to make money out of sharing Bhagavatam. That will come up in another purport also in this chapter. But because the topic is coming here, I'm mentioning the same thing. Prabhupada is very passionate about the topic, because that is very, very harmful to hear from a professional man, even though he's talking about Krishna only, even though he's talking about Krishna's devotees only, because their heart is not clean and their motivations are not clean. So when we hear from a speaker who has motivations of wanting fame, wanting prestige, or wanting money, wanting followers like that, then that heart-to-heart transmission also happens. Meaning, it's not just knowledge, information we hear. It's a from the heart of the devotee who's speaking. We get the transformation comes into our heart also. Our heart also gets transformed when we hear from a teacher. That's why whenever we learn from any teacher, we'll be very careful who they are. Are they devotees or not? That's why we try to interact with mostly devotees, even to learn something. For example, if you're learning pranayama, learn from a devotee ideally. If you're learning yogasanas, learn from a devotee ideally. Otherwise, they'll impress upon you the impersonalist knowledge that they have also. So, but not everybody is like that, but you have to be careful. So that's one aspect. Second aspect is with a devotion, here with the devotion and attention. Those are two things that are given also here. So hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is not just for knowing more things. It should inspire us to attract to Krishna, to attract to devotion service or bhakti, to attract to devotees, to understand the aspirations of devotees, to want to associate with devotees, to want to practice this bhakti more sincerely, more seriously like that. With that mood, we accept Srimad Bhagavatam. And then with attention, this is the very difficult part for us in this world, Kali Yuga especially. Remember in the first canto, we heard how different qualities of Kali Yuga are described, where first of all, people don't have time. Even let us say they get time, then uh, uh, they're very lazy. They don't want to go attend a class or read Srimad Bhagavatam or read Bhagavad Gita like that. Let us say, even if they make time somehow, even if they make conviction, determination that I want to make this time and I want to hear a Krishna Katha, there are so many teachers who are not authorized. So they'll be misguided. So let us say they made time and they overcame their lethargy and laziness to hear Krishna Katha. They came to the right person. But still, what happens is they're they're suffering from distractions, constant distractions. When we're hearing Krishna Katha, when we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we get distracted with this or that, like that. So the attention is very important when we are observing, especially in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam or reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Attention is also very important because when we pay attention, in fact, in our chanting, hearing our devotion service process, one way we show our sincerity to Krishna is by devoting our time. Another way, qualitative way of devoting the same time is by giving attention to Krishna and his process of devotion service like that. When we do, when we invest our attention in the time for Krishna, Krishna will see our sincerity. All we are doing in devotion service is showing our sincerity to Krishna. Once Krishna sees we are sincere, he gives so much mercy for us. So we can zoom go back to him like that. So that's why that attention is important in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam also. Of course, we heard in first canto so many qualifications of disciple and teacher, like how we need to hear submissively, we should be non-envious, like that. So many qualities are there. But here in this context, Prabhupada is focusing on these two things, three aspects. With devotion we hear, and with attention, and hear from the right source, from disciple succession. So now, Parishit Maharaj is saying, okay, see, this is important point, because third sloka is saying, please continue speaking. He's worried that he might stop Krishna Katha. He's saying, please continue speaking so I can give up my body while absorbing my mind in Krishna. That is his goal. He wants to hear Krishna Katha so he can absorb his mind in Krishna, devoid of material attachment. Remember, that is why the CUT acronym is also coming. He wants to get rid of material attachment and fully absorb in Krishna. And for that, Parishit Maharaj understands that hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is very, very useful just to get that goal achieved like that. That's why he's asking like that. Prabhupada is again emphasizing here. To be fully engaged in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam means to constantly associate with Sri Krishna. Why? Srimad Bhagavatam is not different from Krishna. Like how holy name is not different from Krishna, Srimad Bhagavatam is not different from Krishna. So when we associate with Krishna, we'll be purified of all the impurities of matter. That's what Prabhupada is describing here. So, and here it says, do not hear from professional men like that. So Prabhupada commonly gives the analogy, when you associate with fire, we become fire. Like you put the iron rod in the fire, after some time it becomes so hot, it develops the qualities of fire, right? I mean, what are the qualities of fire? So much heat, so much light. So it develops same characteristics. Similarly, when we associate with Krishna in the form of holy name, in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shravanam Kirtanam, then that leads to Vishnu Smaranam, and through association of Krishna and somehow or other, will get purified fully. That is the glory. And Krishna will not get impure because we are impure. Remember, Prabhupada also gives the example of sun. Any impure substance, sunlight falls there, it will become purified. Not the other way around. It will not contaminate sun. Like that, we cannot contaminate Krishna. Krishna is always pure. So that is the beauty of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Uh, Parishad Maharaj is describing. Now going to the fourth verse, this is amazing inspiration again. It says, Lord Krishna quickly manifests in the heart. Quickly is the keyword. Uh, uh, Atidirgena is the word in here in the third line. Atidirgena, like that. Very quickly, he manifests in the heart of a devotee. Which devotee? Devotee who constantly hears and chants about him, who regularly hears Srimad Bhagavatam, Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya. So when we constantly hear and chant about Krishna, with what? With faith and serious endeavor. Those are important. Um, so that means faith is important, because if you don't have faith, then the result is not, the result we get is very minimal. With faith, if we perform devotional service, we get Krishna's mercy will come so much for us. That was one point. And then serious endeavor. Sometimes some devotees ask question, how come if Krishna wants us to do devotional service, he can make me do devotional service? Why do we need to struggle so much? Like that, right? So the way devotional service works is, Krishna wants our heart. With our free will, we're investing our desire in Krishna's bhakti. I want your relationship, Krishna. That should come from our heart, desire. And then we should endeavor with that desire to establish our relationship with Krishna. When Krishna sees the desire and our endeavor, serious endeavor, sincere endeavor to have a relationship with him, then he will reciprocate. And he will, if you make one step, he will take 10 steps towards us. That way we can progress quickly like that towards him. But both are required, not just desire, but also endeavor is required. Even from Damodar pastime also we know, right? Endeavor and mercy. Both are required like that. So that's always we remember like that. So now this verse is beautiful. Srinvata Sraddhaya Nityam Grinatascha Swachestitam Kalena Nati Dirghena Bhagavan Vishate Hridi. So in the heart, Hridi. So Krishna quickly manifests as long as regularly hears Srimad Bhagavatam, and by one's own effort and with serious devotion also, we keep practicing bhakti. That's the point here made in the purport also. And this is an important point. This is a point that comes in scriptures regularly. When something is repeated regularly, we should take it seriously. So, and understand the importance of it, understand the value of it for us as practitioner of bhakti, and then apply it in our life also. So this statement, material attachment and seeing the Lord face to face cannot go together. Wow, we can see so grave that statement is, that we all want to see Krishna face to face. We all want to have relations with Krishna. We all want to please Krishna. But material attachment, what is it doing? It is against that. So if you have material attachment, it's coming in the way between us and Krishna. So if Krishna is here, we are here, it's coming in our way, material attachment, sense gratification, material attachments like that. So in fact, we know that from 10 offenses in chanting the holy name also we read every day morning, right? That having material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions, this matter. That's also an offense. So then somebody might worry, oh my God, how can I be offense free then? I have so many material attachments. So the acharyas explain, give us the hope for that. Basically, is not we all. Yeah, I'm at currently at a stage where I can have so many material attachments right now, but I need to endeavor to identify them, endeavor to purify from them by sincerely and seriously applying in bhakti and cultivating spiritual attachment like that. As long as I'm doing that endeavor to identify, endeavor to work on them, then it's not considered an offense. That's a very hope-giving principle for us that Acharya share with us. So that's a principle here. But still, we should be cautious on not increasing our attachments, but only progressively reducing attachment like that. So this is our fourth verse. Now he continues to inspire all this glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam and Harikatha. This is Harikatha purifies the heart. So this is a beautiful description. He says, there's an analogy here that in the autumn rains, it seems, normally after the rainy season, water reservoirs, all lakes, ponds, everything, they'll become all muddy, it seems. But then when autumn rains comes, it's a slight drizzle. With that drizzle, all the mud settles down, it seems, and water looks plain and clear, it seems again. So that is the example Parishad Maharaj is using here to describe. So when we hear Harikatha, it enters the heart through the ears and washes away all the contamination. What is the contamination that we have in the heart? Lust, anger, greed, like that. Those kind of material uh, qualities that are infused with mode of passion and ignorance, coming from mode of passion and ignorance, like that. So it's cleared. We're becoming clean by just hearing Krishna Katha. So when we hear that, we can pay attention. When we hear these statements like this, whenever we understand the value of something, then we can put attention to it. If we don't know the value of something, we cannot put attention. That's why when we hear these statements like from Srimad Bhagavatam, we have to soak it in our heart. That way, we value Srimad Bhagavatam. We value his Krishna Katha. We value association of devotees who speak Krishna Katha instead of speaking Ramya Kathas or Prajalpa. So we value such devotees who always talk about Krishna, something other. So that is what this verse is giving us. Some beautiful points in the purport. Basically, devotion service, actually purport talks about other processes. They can only cleanse one's own heart, the particular practitioner's heart. Whereas devotion service is so powerful in the contrast that can not only clean the heart of the person who's doing it, but when such person becomes a pure devotee, then he can cleanse the hearts of all the people in general also. That is the power of a pure devotee. That's why Prabhupada had so much impact on the people. So many disciples of Prabhupada have so much impact on people. Why? Because of the power of their devotion, they're cleaning all our hearts also. So that's what the power of devotion service. Unlike other processes like karma kanda, karma yoga, gnana yoga, like that. That's what Prabhupada discussed in the purport. And then again, Prabhupada is glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam by sincere efforts to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So interestingly, the words Prabhupada chose, sincere efforts. Many times we think, I don't have time. I have this problem, I have that problem, like that. Krishna only wants a sincere effort. Even if we make sincere effort to hear 5 minutes, Krishna will be pleased and he'll make us time in the day. He'll make the time to 10 minutes. And then when we sincerely hear 10 minutes, Krishna will make it 15 minutes available for the day. Somebody will say, oh, you don't need to do this. I'll take care of this myself. Then we'll get time like that. So all we need to do, sincerely make the effort. That's all. By hearing Srimad Bhagavatam like that, we'll realize our constitutional position. What is our constitutional position? Prabhupada describes in 4 different rasas. There's a typo, sorry about this. Basically, Dasya rasa, Sakya rasa, Vasya rasa, or Madhurya rasa. So then, through that, we'll sit. And by that, we'll situate ourselves in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. And that through, so that's what I think the sentence is messed up. I'll correct it out the class. Essentially, point is, just by making sincere efforts in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, we'll situate in constitutional relationship with Supreme Lord, and then we'll be realize our transcendental loving service. We can be situated in that. That means we'll be situated in service to the Lord, like that. Now, yeah. So with devotion service to the Lord, bhakti, with specific attention for Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam regularly, nityam, and always, is the best recommended method for liberation from the clutches of illusion. Like that, Prabhupada is encouraging us to take up Srimad Bhagavatam hearing regularly, like that. Okay, so now, 6th verse. This is talking about a pure devotee. Dautatma Purusha Krishna Padamulam Namunchati Mukta Sarva Pariklesha Panta Swasaranam Yata. A devotee never gives up Lord's lotus feet. Such a person with purified heart. In the previous verses, the devotee's heart is purified by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is described, right? Such a pure devotee whose heart is purified never gives up the Lord's lotus feet. Why? Because so happy with devotion service and the pleasure is getting with devotion service in serving Krishna like that. He's getting so much taste and spiritual bliss that any other benefit you show me, it doesn't touch his heart. It doesn't, it feels insignificant for him like that. And the analogy is given is somebody who's traveling a lot outside, but finally they come to home. They're so happy after so much troubles in the journey like that. Similarly, after the conditions, we go through so many sufferings in the material world. Finally, we take up devotion service and get that taste, and we get purified in the heart and situated in devotion service. Then we would never want to give up devotion service, even if somebody gives me $1 million, $1 billion, doesn't matter, because we're so satisfied in devotion service like that. Remember in first canto we heard the verses Ahetikiya Pratihata Bhakti, E Atma Supratidati. When we do uninterrupted devotion service and unmotivated devotion service, we are satisfied at our heart, at the soul level actually. That means we'll be happy. We don't want anything more. Now, next section lists a whole bunch of questions per Parikshit Maharaj. And the answers will come and rest of the Srimad Bhagavatam actually. Some comes in the next few couple of chapters, some in the rest of the Srimad Bhagavatam also. Just 1 minute. So these 7 to 11 questions are about the Lord and Jiva. These are interesting questions. Prabhupada encourages in section importance of asking questions also, especially to spiritual master. So he's asking, how did the Jiva, remember in the first few several chapters, Sukadeva Goswami described, we are disconnected from the Lord. So we need to establish connection with the reality, Supreme Lord. Now, naturally the question comes, if we are always spiritual, how come we became disconnected? How come we've got a material body? Like that he's asking the question in 7th verse. So Prabhupada is encouraging us, the first step in devotion service is to take shelter of Guru and then inquire from the Guru all about the process. And this inquiry is essential for immunity to all kinds of offenses in the path of devotion service. So amazing, right? In fact, in devotion service, of course, we can say this statement in different ways. In this context, I'm using this. Devotion service essentially includes two things. Doing the activities of devotion service, which is 9 process of devotion service, for example, Shavanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Swaranam, like that, right? Chanting, hearing, remembering Krishna, like that. And simultaneously not making offenses. We can categorize devotion service as these two in one sense. There are many ways we can describe the whole thing. So that is why all this knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam is to establish Sambandha Gnana so that we can treat everything properly according to its spiritual nature. So we can see others as a spiritual being. We can see scriptures as a spiritual significance, as not different from Krishna's Srimad Bhagavatam, for example. Spiritual master, we don't see him as a material personality. We see him as a spiritual being and the representative of Supreme Lord himself, like that. Like that, if you analyze all the offenses, they're primarily because we are seeing them as a material like that. So when we receive knowledge from spiritual master or from scriptures or sadhus, one of the main things that is helping us is how to practice devotion service and how to see everything spiritually with spiritual vision. That way we can avoid offenses. Because if we see everyone spiritually as servants of Krishna, part and parcel of Krishna, Krishna is in their heart, then I will not offend them like that. Now, 8th verse, basically is here asking, it appears in your description but the Lord has a gigantic body. So uh, human beings also have bodies. So does it mean, is there any difference between them other than the big size, Lord being gigantic size? Like that is asking. Of course, the hint Prabhupada is giving the purport for this is that Supreme Lord has a transcendental body, not material body like us. That is the point. His body and soul are one, not like us. We are a soul inside this material body like that, right? But the detailed answers will come in next chapters. And then he says, Brahma appeared from the navel of the Lord. So that means because Brahma has a material body, that does mean Lord's body also material similar to Brahma, or is it different? Again, the answer is transcendental body. It's not material body at all. Yeah. And then 10th verse. Where does the master of Maya, Karnadoksai Vishnu, lie? Like Karnadoksai Vishnu says in Karna ocean, right? That he is asking those details. And then please explain more details of Virata Purusha. Because you already told me that Virat Rupa form of the Lord can be understood, imagined as different planets of the Lord seated in different parts of the body, like that. Can you describe more about it? Like that he's asking now. So now text 12 to 14. Remember all these questions he's asking so that he can still absorb in Krishna. Even when he's understanding about material world, he is keeping the connection of Krishna, Krishna's energies with Krishna's empowerment, Krishna's mercy, Krishna's grace. Only everything is possible. He is keeping that connection. That's why we can observe. Even for us also, when we see things around us in connection with Krishna, we can absorb in Krishna also. That is the point. Now, text 12 to 14 is asking different questions about the time, kala, and the karma. He asks the different time spans of creation between creations and annihilation of the universe, and how time is pursued in different ages like Kali Yuga, Satya Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, like that. How the time is there in different scales, like in different planetary systems. How is the lifespan of human beings, demigods, like that? What are the different divisions of time? And this is interesting. What are the destinations achieved by karma? How do various karmic activities lead to various bodies? So basically, this is actually more apparent in fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam also. But here also Prabhupada hints us that according to the modes of natures we're cultivating in our life, uh, then we can go to different planets. We'll be situated in different planets because we'll get a suitable body corresponding to that particular mode to go to a different planet. And Prabhupada emphasizes here, even to go to higher planets within the material mode itself, we need to cultivate mode of goodness more like that. Of course, we know from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto also, later on that will come, that mode of goodness is a springboard to transcendence. Mode of goodness is suitable to cultivate devotion service. That doesn't mean it is mode of goodness is ultimate goal for us. No, it's only helpful to practice devotion service nicely. But through devotion, we actually go to transcendence beyond even mode of goodness like that. Now, the next few questions. Basically, he's asking about creation of various places in the universe and their inhabitants. Again, this is based on the modes of nature that they acquired. And then the dimensions of universe also, characteristics and activities of different devotees, characteristics of different varnas and different ashramas. This is described in 7th canto later on, where Narad Muni describes to Yudhishthira Maharaj about the different varnas like Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, like that. And then also ashramas like Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa ashram like that. So it describes like that. And then he's asking about yugas, duration of yugas, yuga dharma, and activities of yuga avataras. Prabhupada catches these activities of yuga avataras in the purport. Basically, he emphasizes that pastimes of Supreme Lord are identical with the Supreme Lord because they're both on absolute plane. So that's why when we're hearing pastimes of the Supreme Lord, that means we're associating with Krishna directly, and that will purify us from material contamination. The same point we heard in previous verses in terms of Krishna Kada. Same thing here in terms of Yuga Avataras. Now, he's also asking about what is the Sadharana Dharma, Bhakti, and what is the Savishesh Dharma, that means occupation according to different births somebody is taken. And then what is apadharma in emergency situations? This is covered by Narad Muni in the last 5 chapters of the 7th canto to this Maharaj in this section, where he describes Brahmana, what is the normal duty for him. But in case of emergency, what is supposed to do, what is not supposed to do, even in emergency, like that it describes. But for devotees, bhakti is always there, irrespective of any emergency. In any emergency situation, we can still do bhakti. How? We can do smaranam of Krishna at least. Even if I cannot hold beats, even if I cannot open my mouth to chant, even if I cannot hear, but still we can do smarana. But how can we do that? When we're practicing now seriously, sincerely, then when we are in the difficulty and emergency, we can still remember Krishna like that. And then about Sankhya, worship of Purusha Avataras and Yoga Mishra Bhakti, so many questions he's asking now. Now, next set of questions are about the yogis. Uh, Yogis, how do they develop detachment from subtle body, gross body, and then conclusion of different Vedas, Puranas, like that is asking. And then he asks this interesting question. This is a big purport Prabhupada chose to write for this one. He says, can you tell me about deliverance from samsara for all living entities? How can we get free from here? What are the favorable and unfavorable activities for bhakti? This is a very important question for all of us to think through also always. For every decision we make, we need to see, is this favorable to bhakti or is this unfavorable to bhakti? Remember, Anukulasya Sankalpa, Pratikulasya Varjanam, the two principles of the Sharanagati, right? 6 limbs of surrender. So he's asking that question. And then different rules for different karmas, procedures for Ardha Dharma and Kama also he's asking. So now purport. So Prabhupada makes a point that normally material existence is like ocean. Once we come here, nobody, it's very hard to get out of here like that. But if we seek the mercy of the Lord, if we get the grace of the Lord, then very easily we can get out of this without any fear of storm or fog or anything. We can easily get out of this ocean of material existence. That is the assurance Prabhupada is giving the purport. Then Prabhupada gives different things what are favorable for bhakti like that in the purport. This is a wonderful purport. If you don't get time to read the whole chapter, at least you can try to remember to read this first purport, 21st verse purport. So I'm highlighting some of them here. So Prabhupada is saying one should earn his livelihood very easily and honestly. What does easily means? Easily means we should not spend like 20 hours of work time that I don't have time for chanting, or 14 hours of work time. But when I come home, I cannot talk to wife, I cannot talk to husband, I cannot take care of children, I cannot chant, I cannot hear. Nothing. That's not the way. Easy. So we do take it easy. That means whatever is minimum required, we do it properly. And then honestly. That means not cheating to get money like that. And then one should not talk nonsense. That means remember Uspadeshamita or nectar of instruction. Prabhupada describes prajalpa. We should not engage in prajalpa. That means we should talk something of value that helps us in improving bhakti, others in improving bhakti, or some kind of service at a physical level, mental level, emotional level, or spiritual level to someone. Ideally, Krishna Katha is most of the time, or to serve Krishna, or to serve devotees. And this important point, Prabhupada emphasizes it 2-3 times in the purport. Different places. That's why I made it bold. Essentially, Prabhupada cannot list everything under the sun in one purport. So Prabhupada is emphasizing we can learn all the favorable things, unfavorable things by approaching a bona fide spiritual master. Because that's how we can learn what is the right way to practice bhakti, what is not favorable for bhakti, and then apply it in our life like that. That is the important principle for us. And then other thing favorable condition Prabhupada emphasizes is we should be very enthusiastic in serving the Lord. Remember Utsaha, Nishchaya, Dharyat, nectar of instruction verse also. Rupa Goswami says the same thing. We should be enthusiastic in serving the Lord. In what way? Doing our sadhana, daily rituals of bhakti, but also to preach in the footsteps of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhupada describes. So both we should be enthusiastic, not just our sadhana, but also to serve. In fact, by serving, we get the realization of whatever we're reading, whatever we're hearing also. So just by chanting and hearing, actually I was listening to His Holiness Rajanath Maharaj a couple of days ago. He was describing how devotion service can be characterized by 3 things simply. Shavanam Kirtanam, chanting, hearing and chanting, and then service, association of devotees. In that association of devotees, what do we do? We serve devotees with humility and with enthusiasm. So that's all we need. He was describing this in the context of Srila Advaitacharya's appearance day. How Advaitacharya exemplifies this mode of service. Who's also a Supreme Lord, Mahavishnu and Sambasiva's incarnation, right? Sadasiva's incarnation. So that's why we should be enthusiastic in serving like that. And then we should be satisfied with whatever comes out of his own accord. That means we should not hanker for too many things. More balances like that. That's what is describing. So now going to last two sections, last two verses of this questions portion. There next section, we'll go to next section after that. So then he's asking about reappearance of jivas after the annihilation from the body of the Lord and the existence of Nityasiddhas, how Lord performs his leelas using Yoga Maya and then disappears without any attachment. That means Supreme Lord is not attached, even though he's creating whole material world and everything. When he used to go, he disappears. He's not attached like that. That's what he's describing. So after Parikshit Maharaj asked all these questions now, so that Sukadeva Goswami has enough points to cover again back to give answers to him, Krishna Katha. Now he concludes his questions like this with some inspiration again. So please answer all that I have inquired. And also what I did not ask also. Why? Because I'm a soul surrendered to you. This is very important point. Purport we'll read and then we'll discuss. Purport point is, spiritual master is always ready to give knowledge to his disciple, especially when we are very inquisitive. So inquisitiveness is greatly necessary for the progressive disciple, Prabhupada writes in the purport. So, meaning there are many aspects of this verse, a couple of things I'll touch. Essentially, one is we should be inquisitive before spiritual master, because when we ask something, spiritual master has an opportunity to share something with us. Otherwise, if you don't ask, then what can he share? In the nectar of instruction also we hear, right? Fourth verse, how loving interactions, loving exchanges are done. So basically, the Prabhupada writes, younger devotee, junior devotee, younger devotee asks the senior devotee, and senior devotee answers it. That is a way of loving exchange. Guhyam akyati, prichati is described like that. So when we are actually hearing regularly and practicing sincerely how to apply bhakti in our life, then we'll get enough questions to ask our spiritual master. So that is a key. Keep hearing regularly and keep the fire on to practice devotion service seriously and sincerely. Then we'll get so many questions to spiritual master. But again, we should ask proper questions, not just why is this, why is that, why is that? What is the purpose of that question? We need to be clear. Is it helping us in growing bhakti? Is it helping in developing attraction for Krishna? Is it helping us in a service? Then we can ask the spiritual master like that. So the other aspect is, because he's saying, because I'm a soul surrendered unto you. Remember Bhagavata verse we hear, Tad vidhi padipatena pariprashnena sevaya. So surrendering, asking questions, and ready to serve. These are important qualities of a disciple. So we just don't ask questions. We need to be ready to serve. We need to be ready to submit. That means whatever spiritual master gives the answer, we should be ready to apply in our life, not just ask questions for the sake of asking. We should be ready to serve the instructions by following them, by applying them in our life also. Like that. So now, among all sages, you are the authority as your knowledge is in parampara. He's saying, actually, there's so many sages around here, but I'm asking you because you are coming from the right parampara, bona fide parampara. Other sages, some of them have other parts of Shed Darshanas, Kannada, Gautama, like that. They have different philosophies. But you are coming from the bona fide sampradaya. That's why I'm asking you. You are the right person to share, like that is saying. And then I'm said, actually, this is not to pump up the spiritual master. This is important mood of gratitude for us. Because only when we look up somebody like this, then we can receive something from them. If we look somebody like this, we cannot receive from them. That's why the mood of gratitude and respect for the spiritual master whom we are hearing from is very, very important. Now he says, now Sukadeva Goswami may think, oh, he has only 7 days to live, and he might be hungry, he may be thirsty, he might be exhausted, he might think, right? So Parikshit Maharaj is saying, no, I am neither hungry nor thirsty because I am drinking the nectar of Krishna Katha from my ear. What you're speaking from your mouth, I'm hearing from my ear. I'm drinking from my ear. So please continue Krishna Katha, like that is encouraging. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, if you're fully absorbed in Krishna Katha, Achyuta Katha, we can never be afraid of anything in the world. In fact, that is the key. When we are absorbed in Bhakti and hearing Krishna Katha, then we get the taste. With that taste, we don't worry about so many things, small, small, trivial things in life also. But we still do them properly for material duties, of course. Now, this is the last section of this whole chapter now. Basically, what we saw, Parishit Maharaj started with asking some questions. First, he glorified Krishna Katha, and then he asked some bunch of questions about Jiva, Supreme Lord, material world, everything like that. And then now he's asked, now he glorified again Sukadeva Goswami and he said, please go ahead, I'm ready, I'm very eager to hear. Now Sukadeva Goswami is very, very pleased with Parishit Maharaj's inquiries. Why he is pleased? Because he's not at all tired of hearing the topics of Krishna, and also is very, very anxious to hear them on and on with interest. Actually, when a speech master finds that a disciple is interested in hearing, is very, very pleased, because speech masters love to speak Krishna, about Krishna, as much time as we need. We know Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also recognized and appreciated of Srila Prabhupada, that I marked that you like hearing, like that. So like that is very important process, and they love to give the right knowledge for us if you're eager to hear and eager to apply in our life also. And when speech master sees that we're making whatever endeavor based on our capacity, he loves to give more and more resources to us, more and more mercy to us, like that. Doesn't mean that we need to do some big, big things. With whatever capacity we have, if you're doing sincerely, he gives so much mercy. Then he then spoke Srimad Bhagavatam. So Sukadeva Goswami, this he means Sukadeva Goswami then starts speaking Srimad Bhagavatam further, which was first spoken to Lord Brahma in the first kalpa. That means he starts with the Chatusloki verses in the next chapter is described like that. Now Sukadeva Goswami prepared himself to describe all that the king had inquired about. So in this purport, Prabhupada writes something interesting. So the way he writes is that Parishit Maharaj asked so many questions. Now, it's not necessary when a disciple asks so many questions for a spiritual master to answer the questions in the same sequence. He might choose the sequence he wants, number one. Whatever is makes sense in terms of answering the question in a systematic way. Because we also see this, right? When we ask spiritual master, when you ask 3 questions to spiritual master, he answers the 3rd question first. Because sometimes that question is foundational or fundamental, that clears up so many answers like that, right? So like that, speech master has his free will, and speech master knows what is best for his disciple. So he'll answer in a particular way, but in a systematic way. Similarly, Sukadeva Goswami also answered all the questions, it seems, without leaving any questions throughout the Bhagavatam. But in a systematic way, he did not go through the same sequence. Like that, Prabhupada describes in the purport. So it's not necessary. So that is one point. Now, another important point is, just because I'm asking question to speech master is not obliged to answer my questions. So we need to stay in that humble mode also. That means we can ask questions to seek a favor from speech master to answer. But if he doesn't answer also, we should be happy that it's up to him. He has the free will to answer or not. That's why many times either we can say it or we at least internally think, if you so desire, you can answer it, like that. So we should always be in that humble mode. If you desire, you can answer. Otherwise, it's your choice. We should not demand anyone, including especially spiritual master. So, of course, we should not demand anybody also, because if you demand, nobody will listen. If you request only, people will do something for us. Bir Krishna Maharaj says this in a non-violent communication related seminar also, right? That if you demand, nobody does anything. If you request them, they'll consider at least. So, but spiritual master is the elevated personality. He knows what is best for us. So he will do always what is best for us, even if he scolds us, even if he doesn't give answer to us, even if he answers a question in a different way that we don't understand right now. Still, it's beneficial for us. We can apply that in our life. So just to conclude this chapter, so basically we heard how Parikshit Maharaj glorified Krishna Katha, how Srimad Bhagavatam is the best to get purified, to get absorbed in Krishna, and to go back to Godhead like that. And then he asked so many questions from Sukadeva Goswami related to the cosmos, related to the Jiva, related to the Supreme Lord's body, Supreme Lord's nature, Supreme Lord's creation, all those things. And then he inspired Sukadeva Goswami saying that you're the right person to speak. I really want to listen from you. Please speak. I'm very, very eager to hear. And I don't have any hunger and thirst. Please speak like that. And Sukadeva Goswami very, very happy to hear the questions from Parikshit Maharaj. And he starts to speak Krishna Katha in response to Parikshit Maharaj's question in systematic manner. We know the Puranas don't go in chronological order, but they have systematic order in which they're communicated. So with this, we can conclude this one. The next chapter is a wonderful chapter. You can hear from the next speaker. Is describing the whole essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam in one sense with the 4 slokas. So that will be wonderful. Please eagerly look forward for that session also. Thank you. That's all for business. Sri Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. It was such a beautiful, beautiful session. You covered everything, including the purport, so diligently. I like 2 things that you said. One, in the beginning, you were talking about how, sometimes we say we may not have the time, but if we invest 5 minutes also, somehow Krishna, he makes it happen that we are able to get 10 minutes, and then we're able to get half an hour, then 1 hour, then sometimes even 6 hours. It becomes possible by Krishna's mercy. So that's
Absolutely.
such a beautiful point. And the other thing that you were speaking of is the master. That is also so true, right? Like if we have a bunch of questions, sometimes the question that we are not looking forward to get answered actually gets answered first. And that in turn is the answer to so many other things in our mind. So that's so beautiful, Prabhu. So thank you so much. That's a beautiful analysis of all the verses. The flow was beautiful. And I know this chapter is also very crucial in putting the footage for the Chatur Shloki coming up. So thank you so much. We'll flow in mind so we can understand the next chapter better. Thank you, Prabhuji. Beautiful class. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Very Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for such a beautiful, beautiful class. Even I like the same point what Preeti Vilasni Mataji was just saying about the time management. We think that we don't have time for Krishna, but then if you sincerely have that effort, even for a minute, if you're giving a minute for today, and like every day I'm giving at least a minute for Krishna for 1 month, Krishna sees that efforts and then gives me 5 minutes. Slowly that will increase, and Krishna wants the see that our sincerity and our effort, then automatically everything manages. And especially I like the point that you said that when you do service for Krishna, Krishna will take care of your material things. Like as you said that, you said if somebody might come and ask, oh, can I do this for you? Then see, if somebody else is doing my work, so I'm free with other thing. I mean, I'm free at that time. I can utilize it for Krishna. So that is so true, Prabhuji, that because I experience in my life, in my personal life, because every single day I spend my time with Bhakti Sanga, and weekends I get time because I don't have anything. Only in the morning until 8 o'clock I'll be with Bhakti Sanga. Later I'll have free time. But then time flies away like that. I cannot do anything. At least if I'm being in service with Bhakti Sangha from morning to evening, I'm listening, I'm hearing, I'm managing my cooking, and everything is going well. But weekend comes, nothing will happen. So that is what, when you have time for Krishna, everything goes well. If you don't have time for Krishna, nothing goes well. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such a beautiful, beautiful class. And you are telling that these verses that you need to put it in your heart, and you need to remember that every time, these verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, because this cleanses our heart and this makes us closer to Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Each and every word that you have spoken, it helps us to get more love for Krishna, and also so much of faith in this process when you are speaking those words. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very grateful to you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your personal relation, Mataji. That is valuable in devotee association, hearing each other personal relation. That's very helpful. Then we get motivated to practice bhakti nicely.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, from your class we are getting motivated. Hari Bol.
Very good. Thank you. Hare Krishna Mataji, Sukha.
Hi Krishna Prabhuji, Danvar Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
As
Hare Krishna.
always, such a beautiful class, Prabhuji. I was just wondering because I was a little distracted in the middle. I was doing something else. And I was wondering, you said that Parikshit Maharaj asked the same question. How come, we are spiritual beings and how did we, get into this material world? So I was wondering, where is it answered, Prabhuji? Is there any reference for that?
Okay. Yeah, basically, I think let me clarify the point I was making. So the question Parikshit Maharaj was asking was, we are a spiritual being. How come we got this material body like that? He was asking. So in essence, I know the way you were asking is slightly different in my mind only. The way you're asking is about how did we fall from the spiritual world? That's a difficult question to answer. Prabhupada had a particular stance and Acharyas had a particular stance. And even Ravindra Swarup Prabhu had if you're interested, Ravindra Swarup Prabhu had articles also written on this topic. You see, I understood only 50% of the article really, basically. But that's a big, difficult subject matter to discuss, Mati. And Prabhupada emphasizes not to worry about that. But this particular question that Parikshit Maharaj asked, how do we get material body? Meaning, how do we get conditioned to be in the material world with the material body like that? That's answered several spaces in Bhagavatam. More prominently, I'm recollecting, Mataji, in the Uddhav Gita section in 11th Canto, where, of course, we know in Bhagavad Gita also is given. In Uddhav Gita section, primarily, he talks about by influence of the modes. Basically, when we consider all the material world, everything we see around us, separate from Krishna. That means we don't see whatever we're seeing around us in connection with Krishna. That they're all from the energies of Krishna. We don't see that connection. Then we want to enjoy them ourselves. Then the influence of material nature comes on us. Then that's how we'll be tied up in the circle of birth and death, like that is described, Mataji, that question. But I'm not qualified to answer about the other question, how we fell down from spiritual world to material world. I heard that it's not, there are a lot of different ways is described in the scriptures, and inconceivable topic also I heard, Mataji. So I'm not so expert on that topic myself. Does it help, Mataji?
No worries. Yeah, thanks so much, Prabhuji, for that reference from Uddhav Gita. And, I just got curious because I heard you say that. So I was wondering if it's answered somewhere in the Bhagavatam. So that's why I asked Prabhu, because I do understand, like you said, there are many different explanations. So I just got curious.
Sure. Ravindra Swarup article does some justice, but obviously it's not fully comprehensible for me. It does some justice, Mataji. I can share that with you also, those two articles Ravindra Swarup Prabhu wrote. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Prabhu. As always, very wonderful class. Dripping with nectar. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Looking forward to more of this class.
Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Bharat Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. Thanks for the nice class, binding us to the Bhagavatam glories. Prabhuji, my question is like how we can become a sincere devotee and a serious devotee?
Oh, very nice question. Sincere devotee and serious devotee. Okay, very nice. Basically, here is my relation only a little bit. So, sincerity is within our heart. We know what is sincere, what is not sincere. That means we always need to consider in our life, is this favorable to Krishna? Is this favorable to Bhakti? Or is this unfavorable to Bhakti, unfavorable to Krishna? Is this not pleasing to Krishna? Because ultimately, what are we doing in devotional service is to please Krishna, right? So if you need to keep that in mind, and then when we are trying to do something insincere or unfavorable to Bhakti, we should sincerely accept, at my current position, I'm choosing this, even though I know it's not right. Not make it like, oh, that's also devotional service like that. Don't whitewash it. So we really know It's okay. Right now, I cannot do this properly, but I will do this now. But I want to overcome this over time and come to this like that. That is what is coming to me, Prabhu, in terms of sincerity. That means accept with self-honesty, basically, primarily. With that, continue devotion service with whatever we understand, whatever we hear from speech master, whatever we hear from scriptures and sadhus, we apply in our life to our capacity. That clearly, number one. And then seriously, I'm remembering, I'm equating the word serious to intensity, Prabhu. In the last session, we talked, I might have talked, I don't remember for sure. I might have talked about intensity in devotion service, like Tivra Bhakti. In the second canto, I think second chapter or third chapter, we heard the verse about Akama Sarva Kamo Va Moksha Kama Udaradi. In that verse, the Tivra Bhakti comes. Basically, when Sukadeva Goswami is establishing that some people do devotional service, some people do universal form, worship universal form, some people worship super soul, some people worship demigods. I think I told already, right? Yeah, like that. Some people see the nature and think that is Supreme Lord, like that, right? All these things are there, but bhakti is the best. Whether you have all desires or no desires or desiring for liberation, just do Tivra Bhakti. In explaining the Tivra Bhakti, I like the Tivra Bhakti explanation from Swami Bhagavan Keshav Swami Maharaj, Sutapa Prabhu. He gives the principle of HIT. I don't remember if I told you in the last class or not. Honesty, intensity, and tenacity is the three acronym he uses. That means being honest with where we are and where we are going. Are we going to improve devotion service? Are we going away from devotion service? Like that, see. And then intensity, the way he says intensity increasing is by increasing the quantity of devotion service. That is more rounds of chanting, more hearing, more reading, more deity worship, more more seva, like that. Quantity. And then quality. Let us say I don't have time. I already have my time booked up. 16 hours chanting, some time of hearing, sometimes reading, sometimes deity worship, like that. So same time what we are spending, do more quality, like that. And then quantity, quality, and increase the difficulty. That means difficulty of services we do, increase it. That also increase intensity in devotion service. And the fourth thing is describes is take responsibility for others. If I'm guiding somebody, then I will become selfless and I will become more serious, like that. That's the other thing I'm remembering, Prabhu, for seriousness, intensity. And then another thing I remember is we need to associate with those devotees who have this fire in bhakti, who have this seriousness in bhakti. Then we'll not do lackadaisical or complacent bhakti or mechanical bhakti, or just to do some bhakti, some this, some dikti, some like that. So find some devotees, one or two devotees who have that fire in bhakti. Then with their association, we can also do like that. So for example, I did for a long time, I didn't get to, I read when there's association of devotees. So then, because I don't have the taste to reading yet, so I associate with another devotee who likes to read. So then we both read together. Then that way I can also improve, like that. Like that, if somebody has more seriousness in bhakti, when I associate with them, wow, oh, you are already planning for Nityananda Trayodasi? He will tell me, oh, you know what, Prabhu? Nityananda Trayodasi is coming up on Thursday. I put leave this year. So I'm going to go to the temple in the morning for Mangalati and I'm going to chant 64 rounds that day. They will say, wow, maybe I should also chant 32 rounds at least. Like that, we get inspired from him. Or he will tell, you know what? This year there's a Adhika Masa, Purushottama Adhika Masa. I'm thinking what I should do for Purushottama Adhika Masa. Then we'll get, wow, this guy is already planning for that. What can I do? Like that, we'll get. So like that, association is very inspiring actually. When you get inspiring association of serious devotee, we can also do serious bhakti, bro. The two things coming up, bro: intensity and the association of devotees, serious devotees. Makes sense, bro?
Yeah, very inspiring answers, Prabhuji. I need to work on it. That's my homework. Thank
Sure,
you,
bro.
Prabhuji.
Thank you. Yeah,
Then,
Krishna will help us, bro. All of us. We just pray, Krishna will help us.
sure. Thanks, Prabhuji.
Welcome, bro.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Very beautiful answer.
Welcome.
I like the one point that you are telling that we need to be, what is that? I'm not able to get that word that you used. Like we need to be very much attentive, or like we need to be very much focused what we are doing. If you're not able to do more, use the time very effectively, not just for namesake doing. Quality increase of quality. That is very nice, Prabhuji. Maybe I have to work on that, because I'm not able to increase my sadhana. At least whatever I'm doing, I have to do it lots of love. So that way I'm able to get that so much of love for devotion and Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Very beautiful answer.
Welcome, Ate. Oh, when I was explaining the HIT, honesty, intensity, and tenacity, I forgot to mention. Tenacity, Swayambhav S.B. Keshava Maharaj describes. Tenacity means we'll fall down naturally, but we need to come up. That means we do for 5 days, 6th day we don't do it, but we should continue like that. That's how he describes it, tenacity. Yeah. Any other comments or questions? If not, we can end here. Oh, Hare Krishna Bhavan Mataji. Go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat
Thanks
Pranam,
for
Mataji.
such a sweet Bhagavatam class. Prabhuji, my question is like, does the astrological chart affect our devotional life? Like any kind of planets positions are coming in our astrological chart. Does that affect our bhakti? So can you please tell that?
Sure, Mataji. I'm thinking about two things. One is Madhurya Kadambini, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur analyzes Bhakti is dependent on this, Bhakti is dependent on that, is Bhakti dependent on that, is Bhakti dependent on that. He analyzes various factors to confirm. Then he establishes the fact that Bhakti is independent of anything. So that is the beauty of Bhakti actually established. Even in the first 3 chapters of the second canto, the beauty of Bhakti is there's no material qualification required to practice Bhakti. Whereas to practice Bhakti, Jnana or Ashtanga Yoga, you need certain material qualification. You need to be able to do austerity. You need to be able to speculate in a certain way like that. So that is one thing I'm remembering, Mati. Bhakti is independent no matter what, number one. Number two, the astrological chart and astrological influence is there in our life no matter what. Means in the material circumstances wise. What happens is the previous karma we done is coming to us in this life in terms of different circumstances in life, different situations in life, not necessarily our action towards that situation like that. So we're put into situation based on the past karma, based on the astrological chart. But what we do in that situation is still up to us. That free will is given to us by Supreme Lord Krishna. So when we understand that, number one, then we can act with our free will. That's one point. Number two, Prabhupada described when we clap in the Kirtan of Hare Krishna Kirtan, for example, to please Krishna, then itself the astrological lines are changing like that. So Bhakti itself can change everything in our life to make it favorable to Bhakti. So beauty of Bhakti is you don't have to do something to get qualified and then come to Bhakti. Just start doing Bhakti. That will bring the qualification required for Bhakti and will progress in Bhakti also. So many devotees have this personal example of themselves actually, because they might have thought that they're never qualified Bhakti. Bhakti will work for everybody, but not for me like that. But still it works for them. So like that, we can also have nice association and continue Bhakti. So irrespective of our astrological chart, if Bhakti is independent of that. Only thing is we need to be careful because of the past karma, some inclinations will come in our life. That means we have tendency to act in a certain way. We need to be cautious about them. So that way we can work on them like that. Otherwise, Bhakti is independent, Mataji. So we can all develop Bhakti. And we can, in any position we are in, any difficult position we are in, we can still do Bhakti. Maybe not like the neighbor, maybe not like another devotee, but we can do Bhakti somehow. Like that. Make sense, Mati?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. It's a motivating answer. Thank you.
Welcome, Mati. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. And thank
you.
you for staying with us. Thank you, Prabhu. Your
Thank you.
classes are very transformative. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Vancha kalpatarubhascha
Panchakalpatarubhesha upastabhevacha patitanam
Manam
pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha.
Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki Jai, Srila
Jai.
Prabhupada
Ki
ki Jai,
jai.
Sundarananda Prabhuji ki
Hare
Jai.
Krishna.
Right.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for beautiful class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Thank you everyone for joining today's class. We'll meet again next week.